Hey beauties, good afternoon to you. If you have not yet made Jesus Christ your personal Lord and Savior, please feel free to do so. He's the best being ever. Certainly that would be the best decision you could ever make. Take my word for it. All right, listen to me now, wonderful people, on this wonderful Sunday. So, I saw something online on the Jamaica's Observer's site where, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to be, because I'm not looking at the I wouldn't say a bulletin, but I'm not looking at the article to quote it verbatim. But it tantamounts to the Prime Minister Andrew Holness, saying that people need to be careful of the misinformation that is going around, especially with what the government is doing and what it's not. And, people need to decipher the information carefully, before coming to conclusions and just accepting things that they see on social media, because they will be going on social media for an hour or so, hear something and run with it. Let me first and foremost, I'll agree with him to an extent that, and this has nothing to do with government solely, that generally people should do investigations and checks before believing what they're seeing on the internet, because sometimes people run with things, and when I see it, let me give an example. Somebody had used his wife's picture. That's Juliet Holness's picture, with the voice of another politician using some indecent language, because that politician was frustrated. I had done a video, so I can understand the frustration of how the politician must have felt, and it was deceptive. It was deceitful for somebody to use the Prime Minister's wife's picture and then use another politician's voice. And when I looked at the comments, there were people who actually thought it was her. They were making comments as it relates to the voice, not realizing that it was not her voice, because I remember that specific video and who the individual is, and they didn't even realize that that's not even the Prime Minister's wife's voice. So what he has said, by and large, is true, that we need to do checks. That is why it's imperative that we listen to credible sources of information. Credible sources of information will have marginal errors, meaning you might find between 80 to 90% of them being accurate generally. Maybe 10% of the times or less, they may be inaccurate on the basis of what they thought was so. The ones who are not credible, 80 to 90% of the times, they will spread false information for likes, for views, for clickbaits and these things. And they feel good, they revel in the mischief, they feel good to see the fire brewing. And that's what people do not understand. So I'll agree with him, that by and large, you need to make sure that what you're getting, it's solid, credible information. Now, since the Prime Minister's inception, officially for the last 8 and counting years, and the reason why I said 8, meaning 2 terms, he would have almost completed 2 terms. Next year would be he can go until September of next year. Progressively, when you're listening on the news, Prime Minister, with all due respect, people have been complaining bitterly because things are not working in their favor, and especially tax-paying people, be it low salaries or roads not fixed. I know that whether it's local government or central government, I'm just pulling everything in one in this conversation. All right, the MPs not doing their duties, the councils not doing their duties. They don't have water in the pipes. The housing solutions are insufficient or too small in places that it's the soil may not be good. It's hot, maybe it is. People, as I said, they're suffering from water lock-offs or water not coming through the pipes. They have to go far and wide to get water, carry water on their heads in this 21st century. The roads are horrific. I mean, you wonder what is going on with our tax-paying dollars. People are barely paid. And when I say people, I'm not talking about maybe the majority who are in management, especially in public sector. So management across the board, be it in the field of policing or nursing, the medical field, the civil service field, or another field that is under the public service sector. Those in management are okay, but the ones who are in the middle and below are not comfortable, because as even if they get incremental increases, the inflation is so high that it still swallows the barely income that they would have gotten They cannot live any sort of wholesome or semi-wholesome lives. These are things that people are complaining. So it's not a matter of, misinformation in some sense. It's just that for the last, especially the last 4 years, have been arduous, difficult, horrible years. The COVID pandemic unearthed a lot of the uglies, the sores, the gunk, the sewage that has been brewing. We didn't even know how bad it was. I remember somebody saying that if you go to some place, I think in the downtown Kingston area, I'm not sure exactly where, the people that you see go for food because they don't have any money. You'll be surprised. It's not the homeless people only, or people on the street who are sleeping, people who are in okay enough jobs and so on, but things are difficult. Yes, there are people who are living above their means, but you know what has happened, sir? Just as how learning literacy has to be taught, financial literacy has to be taught. And I think with the black race, we have been dismissed in a sense from it. We're now playing catch up. We're playing catch up, and that is why today you only have 1% of black people owning this, being wealthy. What 1%? We have been shafted. So in fairness to us, we have been shafted. I'm not saying that we need to keep putting blame on slavery, but it still does affect us. We don't practice certain things that we see other cultures do. It is not in our curriculum. And when I say curriculum, not only in schools, it's not made mandatory like how math and English are mandatory right through, So in fairness to us as black people, we never got the financial literacy, so it has hit us. So most people end up living above their means because of the lust of the eyes. When they see nice things and they see their counterparts, meaning the other ethnic groups, doing well and looking good and living in lavish houses, driving luxurious vehicles, eating the best foods, they will do anything to live that kind of life, because each human wants better. We want growth, we want development. So not for it only to grow, but for it to sustain and maximize and get better. So I want you to understand, sir, that people are not doing well. I know, vloggers like myself, we mean well. Sometimes when I vlog, people think it is to, like how we say it in Jamaica, beat and teach. Yeah, but beat and teach in a wholesome way. Not acting as though we are perfect. But we're saying, look, just do some things in order to make the people survive in a decent way, where they can buy a decent home and a decent car. They can go to a decent supermarket and buy stuff without putting back 3/4 or half of the things. And when you look, it's just 10 things. If they can't even manage the 10 things, can you imagine the others? And it affects their health because it has other effects. You can't buy the good foods, they develop illnesses and diseases, and the rest is history. So what I'm not talking about people who are getting up here, sir, and talking about like trying to create a vitriol around you, how you look or your nose and all of that. And I've often said that you're a handsome man, whether your nose want to be big, small, or medium sized. It's ridiculous when I hear people talk about the big nose. And I said, and I guarantee when you look at some of them, they shouldn't be talking because their nose may not be, yours may look better than theirs. So that's ridiculous. That is, for me, when they go down that road, it's just puerile, very childish, and unnecessary, nonsensical. I believe in hitting out against injustices. The Bible speaks about that. It's something that I'm reading in Isaiah. We need to look out for the widows. We need to look for the poor, the needy, not just the poor. There are people who are in need. They may not look it, but they are. People need better salaries for the public sector workers. Look at the Civil Service Association. They've been trying to get through to the Ministry of Finance as it relates to maybe the reinstatement of passenger mileage, because when people are doing traveling work, for example, and have 3, 4, 5 people pack up in their vehicle and they only claim for themselves, that's unfair, because they have to pay for the wear and tear while others pay, get monies and are okay. There are some back monies that we were to be given, that was projected and not given and so on. So many different things, sir. When we think of the nurses and the doctors and so on, many of them who are on the lower level, not the management again, they're not paid sufficient. They're struggling. You have to understand that people are struggling financially. And then when the roads are bad, no water in the pipe, can barely find food, they're going to cry out, and people are listening. So a lot of the information that's out there, it's not misinformation, solid and credible, because it's coming from the people who are feeling it. It's coming from them. It's coming from all of us. So I want you to understand that, sir. It's not just misinformation. Anywho, guys, follow me on TikTok. subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please share this message. Thanks.